it's sweet, it's fruity, and it's named after a chick flick. Today, we're drinking Breakfast Club. Hi guys, it's Jim here from drtankenstein.com with another episode of Beers of the British Isles, the series where I sample and review beers from the aisles of supermarkets all across Britain. In today's episode, we're drinking a collaboration brew between Vocation Brewery and the Yeastie boys called Breakfast Club. Now, this is a breakfast stout. It's not a breakfast stout like I've ever had before. Normally, when you hear breakfast stout, you're thinking, okay, has it got coffee in there? Is it a really heavily oated stout? You know, they kind of go for that sort of lane. But no, apparently the brewers of this beer really like to have blueberry waffles for breakfast. So this is a blueberry waffle stout, but because they have that for breakfast, it's a breakfast stout. Now, it's fine by me. I've never had that for breakfast, but if you really like it and it's one of your favorites, why not go and call it a breakfast stout? Perhaps a pastry stout would have been a better kind of description of this, but I never would have bought a pastry stout. That's the marketing out of the way. What's in the can? So first of all, I got this. This is £3. So you see, it's a big can, as all the 3-pounders are in the supermarkets, but it also clocks in at 6.9% ABV. Now this is kind of a trend that you'll see with the I guess the upper price bracket, is that not only will they be bigger cans, they'll also be massively boozy. So you can't really afford to drink two anyway. So 6.9% alcohol. There's no information about the IBUs on this, but as is typical with like a big stout like this, I mean, big-ish stout like this, it's going to be quite, the IBUs are going to be quite high, just so that the bitterness, the IBUs, matches the sweetness of the malt character, the specialty malts as they're described on the can. Otherwise, you end up with a beer that's way too sweet and you can't really drink it. So hopefully that's going to be balanced out. Like I say, you won't really be able to notice it. It's not like an IPA or something like that. While we're on the subject of hops, this beer uses, I'm not sure if it's exclusively Willamette, however you're going to say it, Willamette, I'm going to say Willamette hops. They're the only ones that are listed on the can, so I'm assuming that's all that's in there, because why would a brewery not show off about what hops they've used? So Willamette's kind of, it's almost, I like to call it American Fuggles. People will disagree with me because everybody raves about Willamette and nobody likes Fuggles. I still love you Fuggles, but it's kind of American Fuggles. So this is sort of now edging towards the American stout style, so you might start to pick up a bit of that hoppy character. I kind of hope not, because I do like stouts to be stouts and not kind of hoppy stouts, especially not if they've got blueberry and waffle in there, which is it can start to get a little bit muddy with all those things going on. The yeast they've used is a Vermont yeast, which I believe is almost like it's not a hybrid, but it's one of those kind of English-inspired yeasts, I believe. So you might be getting some kind of fruity estery characters from the yeast. Certainly, I imagine it will be quite sort of on the dry side of a stout. But I mean, I've talked it to death now. Let's dive in and see what it tastes like. Okay, so I'm just going to let that settle out for a little bit. With a with a stout like this that comes in a can, I just like to, or a bottle even, I just like to let them sort of off gas a little bit. You know, all the pressure that's been built up while it's been in the can. I just like to sort of get that out, because in my mind they're not supposed to be super carbonated. You know, this isn't like a wheat beer or something, or even a lager. I like a stout on sort of the flatter side. So I'm just going to let that kind of off gas a little bit before I dive in. I'm also drinking this warm. I like to drink stouts warm. You can drink them cold if you want, but if you drink it warm, you'll get a lot more of the malt character. Like I said earlier, I don't like a stout with too much hop character anyway, so that kind of suits me. So just drinking it warm, you get more malt character. Those hop characters, they're kind of they're quite delicate. They're quite floral or fruity. So they kind of at warm temperatures, they sort of like, they blow off anyway. So you can't really so you taste them less. Now, room temperature, nice and warmish. I've let it off gas, so let's dive in, shall we? So first I'm going to give it a sniff. Okay, so that's good. I've given it a sniff. There's no notable hop aroma in there, which is good. I know I keep banging on about how I don't like hoppy stouts. Certainly if you can smell the hops, that's kind of indicative that there's something weird going on, especially if it's supposed to be a blueberry stout. Now I can sort of smell a little remnants of blueberry. I'm not sure if I'm making that up or not, but you know, I feel like it's in there. You're also getting a lot of kind of yeast character and sort of like, I don't know if you've ever smelled carbon dioxide, but that's what it kind of smells like as well. Now, I'm gonna just a little sippy sip here. That is nice, actually. Oh, and there's the blueberry. Good. Wow, blueberry is quite strong, actually. So, initial impressions when I first put it in my mouth was sweetness. That's the first thing you taste is sweetness. That's very quickly followed up by those Willamette hops, like I mentioned. So the bitterness. So they have balanced the bitterness and the sweetness quite well, even though it's still quite notably sweet. Yes, there is a roasty character, but honestly, that's kind of offset by this blueberry. The blueberry's massive in this, actually. Now that the first sip, it wasn't that big, but yeah, this is a blueberry stout. The waffle, I'm not too sure about. I'll have to give me an excuse for another sip in a bit. Now, something I did notice about this beer is that it's vegan, which is, pretty cool. Vegans can drink it, but that means that they haven't put any lactose in there. So with a stout like this, like a pastry stout, like I say, or it's not a pastry, it's a breakfast stout. With a flavoured stout like this, normally what brewers will do is they'll put some lactose in there. Now this will bulk up the body a little bit, but it'll definitely give it some sweetness. Obviously, they've used those nice Willamette hops to balance the natural sweetness in the beer rather than adding extra sweetness from lactose, which I think is great. I think they've done a really good job with that, actually. With the palate is really quite balanced. Like I said, that blueberry's really kicking my ass at the minute. The blueberry's really quite overwhelming. It really lingers as well. And it's kind of like it's got that nice pleasing sort of palate cleansing dryness, if that makes sense. So basically, after you finish drinking it, you can still taste it, but it doesn't feel like it's still in your mouth. the brewers who made this beer are, we have here Vocation Brewery and the Yeastie Boys. So Vocation Brewery's it's kind of on the quiet, becoming one of my favourite breweries at the minute. Not by choice. I just sort of find myself picking up their stuff quite a lot. I was in Leeds recently, and remarkably, I actually found something cool to do. I don't know the name of the place. It's in an old bar. It used to be called Carpentier. They have it's basically now a Vocation Brewery tap room, or at the time of recording it is anyway. And that was pretty great. So many different Vocation beers on, which was really awesome. So Vocation Brewery, they're out in Hebden Bridge, which is kind of one of these sleepy Yorkshire towns that they just seem to be making breweries out there. Huddersfield have got a major brewery. Halifax have got quite a major brewery. Saltaire have quite a big brewery. And Hebden Bridge with Vocation, really good. I mean, it's a town of 4,500 people, so a brewery this size in a town like that is really great. So the Yeastie Boys are from Wellington in New Zealand. So it's the capital city of New Zealand. So, like I say, it's probably population's about the same as Hebden Bridge. Now, I don't know much about the Yeastie Boys. I haven't had many of their beers. Well, I've had a few. I first had a Yeastie Boys beer probably back in 2015. I was eating at some burger place and they had it on. And, what struck me originally was the name. Yeastie Boys, quite cool, bit of a pun. But every beer that I've had from them, I've noticed that there's not a big focus on the yeast, which I think they kind of need to address. Maybe I'm wrong. I know someone's going to say, "Oh no, try this one. It's really yeasty." By all means, yeah, send it over. I'll try it. So this is a collaboration. There have been previous iterations of this beer that weren't collaborations. That were just Vocation, but this is edition number 0003. I wonder if that means that they're planning on making another 9,996 of these. To go. That's why they needed that extra zero on the 0003. But I mean, I often wonder when you see editions on beers, whether it's simply that they didn't feel they could recreate the previous batch. I mean, seasonals is fine. I think to do that with seasonals is fine, but when it's kind of a stock beer like this that you're always going to find year round, I'm always curious about whether the edition number is just kind of to cover their back kind of thing. But in this case, I don't think that's true. I think that it's clear that they wanted this collaboration to come in, and therefore it made it a different beer. Okay, so how do I sum this beer up? It's dark. Clearly, it's dark. You can see that. You don't need me to tell you. The body's okay. It's not chewy, but that's probably because there's quite a lot of alcohol in there, which by now is making its way to my legs. So I'm starting to feel nice and warm. So the body's not great. The head retention also wasn't great, but do you really care about it? It says that it's a blueberry waffle stout. It's definitely a stout. The palate's very balanced, and I think they've done a very good job of that. A nice dry finish, a nice sweet entrance, I guess. Balanced out. The bitterness is balanced out. Pretty great. The blueberry smacks you in the face. It's kind of like one of those C&I puzzles. At first, I couldn't really see it, and then once I saw it, I couldn't forget it. The waffle, I still can't see that, unfortunately. Maybe they didn't just want to make a blueberry stout. Maybe they wanted to go for this pastry stout market. I'm not sure. The waffle, I'm not really seeing. But the blueberry, for sure. Now, I don't like to rate beers. I don't like to give a number rating because, you know, nobody ever gives a 10, nobody ever gives a 0. Everything ends up about 6 or 7. So what I will say is, if this beer were a song, and maybe you could listen to this song while you drink it, it would be Loneliness of a Tower Crane Driver by Elbow. It's from their album Seldom Seen Kid. It's a great song. It's nice. It's classic Seldom Seen Kid, if you've ever listened to the album. But it just doesn't quite do what it says on the tin. They mention crane drivers once, and this beer, I feel, they've mostly ticked the boxes, but that waffle is really, really lacking, in my opinion. I would still recommend, however, that you head down to a supermarket near you, a bottle shop, grab yourself a Breakfast Club by Vocation and the Yeastie Boys. Try it out, let me know what you think. If you do like this beer, take the can down to your local craft beer bottle shop, your local independent shop. Tell them that you like it and that you want something similar. They will definitely have something to offer you that will blow your mind. In the meantime, guys, cheers.